Yo, what's going on, guys? Today we are going to be going over Gamma Burst for Flak. Now the reason we are going over this build is because I think this is pretty well positioned for the Guardian Takedown. Not only are you playing Flak, so you have more than enough damage to clear the bosses, but as you guys can see in this footage here, we pretty much make light work of the crystals. All we do is summon Gamma Burst over by the portal with Red Fang active, and it makes some light work out of the crystals. Now, real quick before we get into the build breakdown, I want to shout out Rator and Fire Spirit. Both of these guys work very hard for the Flak community, and both of these guys help put together the Gamma Burst build featured in the official Borderlands 3 Discord. So that is the build we're going to be going over today. Now, let's go ahead and hop straight into it. So here we are in the game. We're basically just going to go over the skill trees and the gear. Now, real quick, I want to go over the gear first. The weapons we're using are pretty much just the meta weapons. At the end of the day, you're just going to want to use the powerful weapons in the game as well as in this build. Now, one thing you might notice is all of our weapons are anointed with URAD, which is while under 50% health, deal 150% bonus radiation damage, and we are actually enabling this with the front loader. You could go deathless, but we did find that the front loader pearl combo gets you more damage than a deathless artifact. Besides that, you are gonna want the Red Fang class mod. Now, one thing I want to say real quick is it really does help if you actually have 1 point into He Bites, and I'll talk about that in a second. And then besides that, you can pretty much run ASEs on your grenade and shield, and I'll tell you guys why I do that as well. That has a little bit to do with the skill tree and some of our skill choices. So yeah, going over the skill tree, obviously we have Megavore spec'd into. We have a pretty straightforward red tree spec'd out otherwise. Going into the green tree, we got all the way down into Hidden Machine. Now, this is a pretty strong damage bonus, and it works very well with the effect of Red Fang. And what's really cool about this tree setup is we could actually switch to Rax or Fade Away for bossing if that's what you want to do. So keep that in mind. This is kind of a flexible skill tree. Finally, we go into the blue tree. Now, you notice we didn't get too deep into blue tree. Now, the one thing I want to point out about He Bites is that you want 1 point into the skill. So no matter what your spec ends up being, if your Red Fang has a point in He Bites, then that's good. But if not, you do need to spend 1 point here, and that is to stack Frenzy. So your pet will actually stack Frenzy for you, but you need 1 point into He Bites. Now, one thing I want to talk about is the Gamma Burst Augments we're using. This first one pretty much does nothing in Mayhem 10. Maybe it'll do something if they scale Mayhem or whatever, but you know, we just kind of have this because it's our only option. One of the better Gamma Burst Augments are Endurance. Now, for this raid itself, even if I were to go further down in Blue Tree, which you definitely could, there are viable Gamma builds that go way deeper into Blue Tree. I don't like this skill for this raid. I noticed that the Gamma Burst will last long enough for a crystal phase. So it's pretty cool to have Gamma Burst active, and then it goes down, and it goes down very cleanly as well. As long as you're keeping all the Guardians out of your crystal, which is not very hard at all with this build, because they will literally aggro your pets. I mean, that's what Red Fang does. And even so, even just for general play, if you don't have Endurance spec'd, then we get more use out of these ASE augments. Gamma Burst does last a decent amount of time, but I notice it's going down, and then I can bring it right back pretty easily. Now, one other interaction I want to point out that you should really pay attention to is head count. Whether you use a Monarch with lots of pellets or a Reflux or a Brainstormer with lots of chains, you really want head count to get Gamma Burst active immediately. As long as Gamma Burst is active, you pretty much cannot die with this build, especially because we have Lick the Wound spec'd. As long as you have Gamma Burst up, your pet is basically invincible, and as long as your pet's invincible, he can always pick you up with Lick the Wounds if you happen to take damage some other way. Occasionally, you know, things aren't always perfect, but most of the time they are. I just want to point that out. I don't know if I will post a takedown run with this build, but I will be playing this on stream later today at twitch.tv/thickfillet_. So come check me out if you want to see the raid done pretty smoothly, and this build works very, very well in the raid. Besides that, I think I want to talk about and point some things out about this build. Apparently Gamma Burst is kind of bugged if you are playing in multiplayer, but only if you're off host. So if you're playing with your friends, then try to host the game. Apparently it just sometimes won't work, so keep that in mind. And besides that, this is a pretty fluid playstyle, as you can see in this clip right here, and it goes on for all 3 crystals. Not one Guardian ever stepped on the plate. Now, I'm not saying it's always going to be perfect like that, but this build does a very, very great job in the raid, especially with the crystal sections of it. And yeah, and like I said, we spec far enough into green and red tree. You could swap over to fadeaway, or you could swap over to Rax if you want a little bit more extra damage for bossing. Now, one thing I want to point out is notice how, like I said, without endurance, our Gamma Burst goes down. I want to point out that when my Gamma Burst did go down, I actually stuck around for a little bit at that crystal because I wanted to use the reflex to get Gamma Burst back for the next crystal. And we pretty much get into this looping Gamma, and we are never targeted. We always have hidden machine active, and that is the power in this build, in my opinion, and it is pretty great. Personally, I always thought that fadeaway was the only action skill I liked on Flak, but I actually might have to run this Gamma build a bit more. So basically, I'm kind of just stalling to play this footage, just to show you guys we really do get all 3 crystal phases without an enemy ever stepping on one, and the crystal phases are probably the hardest part of the raid. The bossing is pretty straightforward, as long as you know the mechanics of the bosses. Make sure, notice how I hit my pet command there. If your pet gets closer to you, make sure to send him away. The pet AI can be kind of annoying sometimes, but it will work out for you as long as you have practiced with this build. And anyways, guys, that is pretty much it for the video. I showed you guys we are able to clear all 3 crystal phases, no problem. If you guys like this video, don't forget to drop a like on it and subscribe to the channel for more Borderlands 3 videos. Also, I want to point out that I just made a Twitter, so come follow me over on Twitter. My handle is thickfillet_, and I will also put it in the pinned comment down below. And besides that, come check me out on Twitch at twitch.tv/thickfillet_. I hope you guys really enjoy this Gamma build. I honestly didn't think I would like it as much as I like fadeaway, but this is pretty simple and straightforward to play. And it's a pretty chill playstyle, especially for mobbing. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'll see you in the next one. I'm out.